we are not selling you a magic pill that will solve your problems. That magic pill is exercise. What we're trying to do is get people moving more often. We call it movement made happy.
What are you talking about?
Smoking in a bong or a blunt.
Grass.
Dank.
Reefer.
Was is jobba? It just means like that's the fucking joint.
Ganja.
Hash.
Fucking awesome.
Hello and welcome back to Exploring Cannabis and Exercise, the podcast where the anecdotes meet the data. This week I'm talking with Tony Furr, the co-founder and CEO of OffField. It's a company that makes cannabis drinks and edibles for people to enjoy with exercise. I love their catchphrase, movement made happy, which is just the perfect encapsulation of what we found over and over again in the research when we asked people why they combine weed with exercise, mostly to help them enjoy the exercise experience. In this episode, Tony talks about his own experience of pairing cannabis with exercise to help him from getting off the ground with back pain to running his first marathon. Hope you enjoy and make good choices out there. All right. Hi, Tony. Good to see you again and good to talk to you. So Tony is the founder and CEO, yes, of OffField Drinks, cannabis products for athletes. And so I wanted to hear a little bit more about how that started and your own journey with cannabis and exercise. So where did this journey all start?
Awesome. Thank you, Whitney. And I just want to start by saying thank you for inviting me onto your podcast and asking some questions. The research and what you're doing up north is amazing. So thank you so much for that. So we're based in California as well, specifically in Los Angeles. And my co-founder and I started the business about 3 years ago after uncovering some research that's going on at the intersection of cannabis and athletic performance. Having grown up in Los Angeles, I was always familiar with cannabis. It was always around. We've gone through many iterations of its legality. And about almost 4.5 years ago, I was going through my own health journey. I was at the time running an agency and had just had a newborn son I was very excited about. And that's when I threw out my back and I had a herniated disc in my back. I was taking Zoom calls, laying flat on the floor with clients. I was unable to play with my son. And it took me weeks to just get on my feet. I was in bad shape and not feeling good about it. The doctor told me that the reason for my herniated disc was because I sit at work too often. At the time I was either sitting at a desk or sitting on a plane, and it started adding up. Family members and friends around me were telling me that I wasn't looking so good. And I started to take it a little bit more seriously. At least I thought I had to make a life change because it wasn't sustainable. And I went to my business partner at the time, Todd Hunter, and I told him, you know what, I need to make some lifestyle changes. I'd like to start taking my health a little bit more seriously and being a little bit more active about it. Him and I had been working together for about 13 years at the time, and we were close friends. And he told me, that's lovely that you've noticed that you need some changes in your life. What you haven't noticed is I've put on about 80 pounds. I also feel awful. I'd love to take this journey with you. So we went hand in hand and started taking on the project. It was a very interesting time for us. Probably if it happened at any other moment in time, we wouldn't have created OffField. But at the moment, we were working with Nike and we were working with our first cannabis brand. And as part of our projects, we were in the marketing space. We would always do a deep dive into the research and the strategy behind brands and a good understanding of what's going on. And at the time, for Nike specifically, we were focused on this idea of play, that for a long time, it's all about the numbers and stats and being the best athlete you can possibly be. That never spoke to me personally. And it turns out a lot of consumers, it really wasn't resonating with. It was a lot about the enjoyment of just going out there and having a good time. Yeah. Then came the cannabis part of it. Having looked at some research that was coming out of the University of Colorado and then some out of the University of Hamburg, showing that there is connectivity between cannabis and exercise. One, through the survey studies of showing that cannabis users were actually more active than non-cannabis users. They were essentially exercising more often. And the number one reason they were saying that is that the enjoyment of it just motivated them to do it more often. That was exactly what we were looking for. So we started bringing it into our routines and doing things that we hadn't done before, or hadn't done since we were kids. We started playing tennis together. We signed up for a climbing gym. We were inviting friends and colleagues and clients to participate in it. We made it more social and more fun. And we noticed that when we brought cannabis into the mix, it made it more of a social occasion. But the surprising part is that our recovery time was great. We were always in this world, especially at the time, of saying that cannabis is like this non-alcoholic alternative. And for us, it had nothing to do with it being related to alcohol at all. It was that our performance was improving. We were getting better at what we were doing, and our health was improving dramatically. Over the course of 3 to 6 months, there were clear physical changes, lifestyle changes. We were much healthier than we were when we started. And that's when we really started digging into the study between the runner's high, also known as the exercise high, and its connection to the endocannabinoid system. That fascinated us in a big way. And what we started doing is looking out for brands, especially in California, being one of the more mature markets in the country, of who is on top of this, who has products that are that can complement this occasion, who has a good understanding of the endocannabinoid system and its relationship to exercise, who knows about the runner's high and this research coming out. We met with about 300 plus brands and looking for products that are great for our lifestyle, and also just to kind of meet our curiosity of this new area of research. And it was crickets. Most people in the cannabis space, surprisingly to us, didn't know what the endocannabinoid system was. They didn't really understand the anatomy of how cannabis works, and no one knew about the runner's high research. So we decided to tap some people in the cannabis industry to start sourcing raw ingredients and functional ingredients. And we brought in someone that was very well versed in the chemistry and how to put it together and what would complement other ingredients in the space. And with the help of Dr. Mark Farber. And together we were creating these formulas that we were using for our own routines. And it was a dramatic improvement. Our recovery times were improving, our performance was improving better. The actual things we were putting in our body were entirely healthy, as opposed to all the additives that were going into products at the time, and still are to this day. And we're onto something. Our family and friends and colleagues were no longer saying, "Hey, you guys aren't looking so good." They were saying, "What are you guys doing? Because you look younger than ever and better than ever." And we started doing what we were good at the time, was putting together a brand around it. How does this make sense? If we were to start our own company, what are the kind of virtues we want to put forward? What would be our mission for it? And we realized we have a product that can help a lot of professional athletes and people that are in peak performance get away from a lot of the synthetic drugs that are already so common in it, especially things like Advil and ibuprofen that are being popped regularly, not to mention the opioids that are being consumed for pain management. So we have a product that is much healthier for you and effective on that level. But on the other level of like the people just getting off the couch, which we were those people, especially I wasn't getting off the couch. I was literally getting off the floor because I couldn't get up. So we had a product that can elevate that enjoyment, that can reduce the pain, that has that full mind and body experience of, if you're going to consume something like this, it's that moment of excitement of the next thing I'm going to do is something physical and something active. The more often you do it, it becomes addictive. We started joking around about the beginning that it turns out cannabis isn't a gateway drug to other drugs. It's just a gateway drug to maybe running your first marathon. And that part got us really excited that we can help a lot of people with the right mindset, and we can actually change your mindset with our products, and with regular use, you'll see those benefits. So both Todd and I have been the guinea pigs for all of our products. I went from not being able to walk to running my first marathon last year, testing our new formulas for our drinks, which was really exciting at the time as well. And I finished. I'm happier than ever. And now I'm an avid runner and still incredibly physical. And it is definitely, for a lot of our customers and a lot of our family and friends that joined us on this journey, it wasn't like a fad diet or something quick. Everyone is still incredibly active and excited to see what their potential is. So that's been the most rewarding part of the experience now. And now we're in a phase of just iteration and improvement, and offering new SKUs and new products for people that demand a different experience. Because what we've learned quickly is everybody is very unique. Their anatomy is very unique. Their endocannabinoid system is unique. And the fitness level they're in and what they want to do is also unique. So we want to be able to provide these experiences for as many people as possible. And that's kind of the journey we're on right now.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to double click on a couple of things that you talked about so far. So first of all, I think it's really cool to hear about how someone, well, first of all, I'm sorry that you had a back injury. Those are just so terrible. And yeah, one of the things that as a physical therapist, where my mind goes when people talk about how they use cannabis to help them with, their chronic pain, I see it as kind of problematic, because it's like, no, cannabis is a tool in the toolbox. It's not going to solve your problem. And so if cannabis can help you to tolerate the pain well enough so that you can get out and be more active, we know that movement actually helps to decrease chronic pain. And so if cannabis is the tool that helps you to be more physically active, then we need to do that more.
And that is a great point. And one thing I want to stress is that it's not the best selling point for our products, but I tell all of our customers and everyone we can, we are not selling you a magic pill that will solve your problems. That magic pill is exercise. What we're trying to do is get people moving more often. We call it movement made happy. Is the idea of enjoying exercise is a value add, and then everything you get from the exercise itself will show a lot of improvement across the board. And to your point, my physical therapist, when I threw out my back, she's like, you have to be doing these exercises and so on. And I stressed her, is like, what do I need to do to never experience this again? Because it was the worst pain of my life. I don't want to go through this again. And she's like, you have to always be moving. You have to always be doing these workouts. You have to be in really good shape. And she's like, unfortunately, I'll probably see you again because no one is consistent with it. Back to it. And it almost felt like a challenge in a way at the time, but I understood what she was saying, is like, that lack of consistency is hard. It is something that's very challenging for people. But fortunately, I have not gone to see her since, because we're still going strong.
Heck yeah. And I think the other thing that was really important about that is showing that exercise can be fun. The movement made happy tagline is just so perfect. And that's kind of where I'm at right now in my own exercise journey. As someone who's gone to just too much school on exercise became it became such a different thing to me. And it became like, oh, I have to create a graph. I need to make the best exercise routine for myself. And it just took the fun away from it. And so like a year ago, I stopped tracking any kind of all of my runs. I have no idea how long I run. I don't know how far I run. I don't know my pace. I just needed to stop doing that and just remember that I'm going out to go for a run to celebrate moving my body. And I need exercise to just be having a good time moving my body, and not some way to punish my body or anything like that as well. And so I think that the ethos around making exercise more enjoyable is really powerful.
Absolutely. And my point of view on that is like, essentially to each their own. Of if the numbers motivate you to do it more often and you're trying to do it, by all means. The one thing that I stress for everyone is that, again, this isn't a goal that is, a few weeks away or a few miles away, is once you start the journey, if you're successful, there is no finish line. Is that you're consistently improving yourself with daily movement and daily exercise. And there's too much research to ignore how much it improves both mental and physical health along the way. And the number one thing, other than being able to, let's say, run a marathon or do a triathlon, is the longevity of your life. Is how can you sustain a quality of life that you are accustomed to and improve it over time? And that's something that enjoyment can really benefit, because if you are begrudgingly doing something, or if it hurts too much and you're pushing yourself too far to the point of injury, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. And so when you started to pair cannabis with exercise, was it always kind of in the edible realm, or were you how did you figure out what you like to pair with exercise yourself?
That's a great question. So like I said, I grew up in California, and cannabis was always around. So I used cannabis, especially in the creative field, as kind of like my secret weapon. Late at night, I would, smoke a joint and do some work and try to come up with ideas that I couldn't get, or kind of break through and find my muse, if you will. And then there was the social occasions as well, but it was more often than not smoking. There was a moment where vaping became very popular, and still is. There was a bit of a moment with Vapegate and what happened there. And that was what I was most familiar with. My experience with edibles was essentially in college, where I took too much and didn't. So I'm like, who needs this?
Classic. Yeah.
What I've learned recently is that is the experience with a lot of people, is that before legalization, before third-party testing, before potency testing and all that, you would take an edible and just flip a coin. Like, I don't know what this is, but let's see what happens. Fortunately, that has changed significantly. What we do now is we can guarantee dosage. So consistency is very key. You can find an experience that is ideal for you and copy and paste it every single time. When we were looking into products specifically for the occasion, we started with joints and vapes and edibles and things that were on the market. And what we found was, one, smoking before exercise. It's not the cannabis that's bad for you. It's the carcinogens and the smoke. That's not good for your lungs. It will diminish performance specifically because of that. So it was already off the table. Vaping, I'm a big proponent of no vaping. I do not vape anything at all. It is a new category of consumption that is just not understood. Everything that's coming out of it is not positive. So it's like, if you can avoid it, by all means, please avoid it. Because
and it's one of those things, like, I just don't even like the high from vaping. It just doesn't feel like, I don't know, I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah.
When I took away from it and started really looking into the category and understanding the field, it is so strange, especially for people that are trying to be healthy, that for people that are worried about, things from high fructose corn syrup or seed oils or any kind of things that go in your food, and trying to eat organic. And there is this lifestyle that's happening that I'm a big supporter of because it's helping people. I'm like, we are taking some oil hooked to a battery and sucking it down into our lungs. I'm like, and I'm like, how is this on the table? Why is this even? How can we even pretend like this is a healthier option? A joint or something like that. Yeah. So like, that is so ridiculous to me now that I'm like, that's not in the cards at all for OffField, especially. We are looking into new technology for inhalation. Some of it is through our R&D right now. There is still a lot of efficacy and benefits to inhalation specifically when it comes to cannabis. Right now, the legality and the technology hasn't really caught up. We're still in this kind of early phase of post-prohibition. Sometimes people forget that not too long ago it was completely illegal, and now we're talking about the many health benefits of it and how to make it only better. So even being able to compare and contrast different form factors is pretty incredible to me. But we're going to continue pushing those boundaries. When it came to edibles, the one thing that's changed significantly that a lot of people don't know about is the input of cannabis, how we create certain emulsions, whether it's oil-based, powdered-based, things like that. The actual cannabis that goes into it and how it's created affects the way it's processed within your body. Mm-hmm. So before, when you would kind of create, let's say, like a hash oil or something like that and put it in a brownie, one, like I said before, you don't know its potency level. So you could be taking 1 milligram of THC, you could be taking 100 milligrams of THC, and you just need to buckle up and see what.
And the fact that you have to wait a while too to figure out what it's going to be like is the other scary part.
Absolutely. And because it's oil-based, its onset time is a lot slower. The bioavailability of it isn't as prominent, so you don't really know how much you're taking in. And that's all changed. So we try to create the fastest onset times possible and the smoothest experience as well. So there's a lot of charts in terms of kind of efficacy and feeling. And we tried to create a certain quick up and then sustain throughout. And that is all based on the types of inputs we put in there. So how we source it, what it's made of, and how people react to it. So edibles, when I started, I was nervous about, and now I have so much confidence in it. As long as people are aware, you have to find the right dose for you, because everyone is different. We've tried to create a product that is available, that is best for as many people as possible out the gate. And then we have outliers that we're going to create products to service them as well.
Totally. And yeah, through our conversations, I've been really impressed with the amount of research that you actually read through. You actually know the kind of world of cannabis and exercise research. And I know that you understand the restrictions about doing cannabis and exercise research. And so one of the things that stands out to me when I talk to you about the research and development is like, how do you get so much data? Wow. I mean, the whole research process of creating a product is so different from doing research to figure out how does a cannabis product affect performance. And so what goes in that process of the R&D, and how can you create those graphs to figure out what works best for most people?
Yeah. And Whitney, you're obviously very familiar with the challenges of actually getting proper funding, given that it's federally illegal still. But hopefully that changes. Fortunately, there's a lot of international communities that are funding proper research into it, and it's expanding specifically at that intersection. The reason why I'm so familiar with the research is, like, I wasn't going to quit my job and start this whole new venture if it wasn't real. So I had to both read all of the research about it and prove to myself by testing the products myself that this is real and that it is effective. So that took a number of years to do. And the good part is that since launching OffField, there's been a number of studies that are kind of dissecting certain aspects of that intersection and proving it all to be correct. So everything is being pushed forward in the right direction. So I'm very positive.
Yeah, when you're like testing your own experience with your own products and how the formulations are working out, what kind of things are you looking for in your own performance? Like when you're testing it on yourself, how do you gauge what do you like and what you don't like?
Yeah, so I can talk about both my personal experience and how I tested, because I am the first guinea pig of all our products. There's no one that will try anything until I try it first. So I'm constantly tinkering. But then we have a program through OffField called OffField Labs, where we test new products that have gone through our internal team, and we think it's worth an opportunity for more people to test out. So for myself, it's going through a number of iterations. One of what is kind of the nutritional value I need for endurance exercise or strength exercise, depending on what I'm doing. And I try to do a lot of cross training for different things, both for things that are just fun, like going for a hike, going climbing, and then doing long endurance runs or weightlifting. And that diversity is very important to us. Although it's called a runner's high, and that's been popularized in with that term, it's technically an exercise high. Some people in weightlifting call it a mind-muscle connection as well. So there are a lot of terms for it, but it's all happening from the same place. So when I'm testing it, it's essentially being able to still perform at my best without the addition of other products. So when it comes to nutrition, making sure I have the electrolytes, carbs, amino acids, everything that I need to feel my best during that exercise. And how do those ingredients complement the cannabinoid blends themselves? Because then when we put in ingredients like we use L-theanine a lot, which I love, we use small amounts of naturally sourced caffeine in another product. How does it complement the cannabinoid blend specifically? One thing that we found is CBG has been a huge hit for us. And that's something that I've noticed significantly in different dosing, depending on what other cannabinoids are present in there. It gives an overall great effect and complement to the existing cannabinoids, and essentially is the way we're able to dial up and down that graph that I was talking about. Is that sustained effect without a crash and without a huge spike. The CBG has shown consistently that it's just you can feel it with and without it, and I've noticed that personally on every occasion.
Yeah.
Then comes what are best for what exercise. So we have gummies, and we call them athletic energy gummies. They're a lot different than other gummies that are in the cannabis space because it's not just candy with weed in it. They are more like endurance gummies that are popular with triathlon runners, participants, athletes, and marathon running and things like that. So you're going a little further. They're also great for strength training because they have a little bit of glucose in them. It gives you a little bit of a pump when you're working out as well, and builds on that mind-muscle connection. What a lot of people don't give credit for weightlifters and people in doing strength training is the mental fortitude you have to have in order to do it. It is so boring, but it means you have to be mentally strong for it. Is that consistently being able to do the same repetitions over and over again until failure is very challenging. So what we found is having the right blend allows you to kind of zone out in a way without losing form. And that is that inward looking approach to exercise of how is my body performing, not what do I think about it, is very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've tried the drinks now. So because I go through my own process of trying cannabis products with running, hot yoga, and rock climbing. Those are my three activities that I do. And so I've tried it now. I haven't been rock climbing in a minute, so I haven't tried it with rock climbing yet. But with yoga, I think that so I go for a walk beforehand, so I can so I had the drink and then went for a walk and then went to yoga after that. And so it didn't kick in until a little bit into the yoga practice. And it's funny because I kind of decided that edibles and hot yoga was not for me from another edible experience where I realized I was getting that orthostatic hypotension where you feel dizzy when you stand up with edibles. And so I didn't feel that with a OffField drink. It was maybe just a little bit too much liquid. So I think I'd need to try the edible now with hot yoga.
I was going to say with hot yoga, I'm usually sweating like, gallons. I'm more liquid in.
Totally. And then with running, I've tried it now twice with running. The first time I tried it, I forgot that I had a meeting in like 20 minutes, right. I timed it right. And then was like, oh shoot, I have a meeting. And so I actually timed myself. So I'd made sure I didn't go late for my meeting. And when I got back from the run, my meeting was canceled. And I was like, still elevated and still like, I want to exercise some more. And so I then did some some like exercises on my back porch because I was already back from the run and was like, I'm still feeling like active. I kind of want to still exercise. And so I finally went for a longer run the other day. And my runs are not, they're usually maybe like 20 to 30 minutes max. And so I have to, when I use edibles with running, I have to time it so that I will drink, to have the edible or a drink or whatever, and then wait a while before I even start exercising. And so I hung out on my back porch and worked on the podcast a little bit, and then went for my run. And there was one point where I got a little bit distracted on my run because there was like the fall leaves, and it was like, oh, this is so pretty. Look at how beautiful this is. But ultimately, I ran farther than I normally do, and it was the first time, as I was saying earlier, like I don't track my runs, but it was the first time that I was like, I actually would love to know if I'm running faster now compared to when I'm smoking or if I'm ever sober when I'm running. And so I would love to actually collect that data now to see how it actually affected my run time.
Love it. Yeah, I love that experience. Thank you so much for sharing that and trying the products. One of the things that's really exciting for a lot of people, including myself, when I started running, when I started running, like a mile felt like that's too far. And then when I started doing like 2-3 miles, I'm like, this is miserable. But prior to this new version of myself, then what I've realized is that we're able to experience kind of two hits of the runner's high, is both from our drink. So it's like you're able to experience the benefits of anti-inflammation, and lowering stress and anxiety, being able to kind of zone out, if you will, and just go through the experience. But what I've been so excited about is now, because of that, I'm able to go 10, 12, 13 miles in one go. That, if you asked me a few years ago, I'd be like, you're insane. That's physically impossible. But it turns out it is very, very much so possible. Now I'm the person that looks forward to the long runs, because I'm getting this experience usually around mile 5. I'm very much what you're talking about, is like I start noticing the trees. I'm like, it's beautiful out. The air feels great. And that's when I know it's starting to become effective. I'll usually drink it right before, even though the onset time will be about 30 minutes. So around mile 3 or 4, it's starting to kick in. But the first 2 miles are always my hardest. And then every mile after that is a cakewalk. And what I found is I'm feeling the benefits around mile 5, but when I'm at mile 10, 11, or 12, I'm feeling the benefits again. And it's another hit that is naturally derived from anandamide that I'm experiencing. And it's amazing what you're able to do if you just keep going. And that level of enjoyment is something that a lot of people quite literally cannot experience because of their their current state of health and ability to get there. And that's also a big part of it. It's like not just getting people off the couch, is like letting them go further. Whether they're tracking it or not is exciting to learn. I think for yourself as a researcher, you probably just want to know because of that. But for other people, is like being able to go and run a half marathon or something like that. It's totally possible. Every single person, if you are able-bodied, you are able to do it. And that experience is so much more than I just get a medal. It is this feeling of euphoria that isn't just during a race, but every single time you do it.
Yeah.
Trying to chase that is
that sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that idea of, again, I'm going to go back to that. Cannabis is a tool in the toolbox. And if it helps you get off the couch, and if you're smoking anyways, if you're consuming cannabis anyways, you might as well pair it with something that's actually good for you rather than doom scrolling or something like that.
Absolutely. So this is a funny point where we have a lot of, we run ads and try to get people more aware of our products and the brand. It's very difficult, but we do it. And a lot of people sometimes on Facebook, they get a little bit angrier on Facebook. It's a very angry community on there, but they're like, what is this? You don't need anything for running. All you need to do is go out there and run. And sometimes I respond to them. I'm like, you don't need anything for running. You're not running in any shoes. You're not drinking water. You literally don't need anything for it. I'm like, there is a way to make the experience better. There are products that are good for you. To your point, it is a tool in the toolbox that we're trying to create in the healthiest, best way possible, with the fewest side effects as possible, that will create that feeling of enjoyment and longevity down the road. So for some people, it's not for them. And you know what? If it's not for you, by all means, as long as you find something for yourself, we'll be happy. But for other people that haven't found it yet, or have found it, we're here for you. We want to create the best products possible for the occasion. If you already experience it, there's an estimated number, and it's a bit of loose math, that there's 18 million people in the legal states that are consuming cannabis within 1 hour prior to working out. They're consuming it in ways that are not healthy for them, because there's just aren't enough products specifically made for the occasion. Those are the people that we want to, obviously, we don't need to tell them the benefits about it. We just need to provide them a healthier alternative. And for a lot of people that haven't experienced it, we want to make it as safe and available as possible to them.
Yes, amazing. All right. Well, my gosh, I know that we could talk for another whole hour, but I want to respect your time. So, where can people find your product, and where can people learn more about you?
Absolutely. You can go to offfield.com. All of our products are direct to consumer. We're opening up a lot more retail locations in 2024. So if you have any interest in your city, shoot us a note, or on Instagram at OffField, and we can chat.
You have a great Instagram account. The posts are usually really excellent. I enjoy seeing them on my feed.
Thank you so much. We try to have as much fun about it as possible. Like, the foundation of our business is research led, but at the top of it, and how we expose people, we want people to have fun. So we want to make it as approachable as possible. So yeah, if anyone has questions about it, we're always available to talk. We're always interested about other people's experiences with it. And I think the more people that talk about it, the more vocal they are, it will be that counter to the stigma that a lot of people have with it, of you're going to be lazy, you're not going to be able to do anything with your life. It turns out it might be quite the opposite. So we want to be able to promote that as much as possible with as many people as possible.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and I look forward to more conversations with you in the future.
Thanks so much, Whitney.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you don't miss an episode. And be a gem and leave a rating and review. I might read your reviews on a future episode, so have fun with it. If you'd like to be a guest, have any guest ideas, or have any questions about cannabis and exercise you'd like me to talk about on a later episode, send me a DM on Instagram at Exploring Cannabis and Exercise, or email me at cannabisandexercise@gmail.com. If you would like to become a sponsor, I would love to have ads from listeners of the show with shared values. So even if you're out there doing something not cannabis related, if you're out there making boutique lava lamps or something like that, hell yeah, I'm happy to get the word out about your products. I'm always down to talk about cannabis and exercise for a variety of audiences, so reach out if you want me to come talk to your organization or to your team. Or if you just want to be a good person and throw some money my way, you can Venmo me at Whitney-Ogle. Huge thank you to my cousin, Haley Montowski, who helped me get this podcast off the ground and created that great intro music mashup you hear at the beginning of the episode. The music you hear throughout is called Bonfire Cauliflower, created by Isaac Joel. Make good choices out there and have a good one.